Today's video is something I wanted to do for a while now, and I'm happy to present you a direct comparison between the Fender 63 Reverb Unit Reissue and the recently released Tubetown Surfmate kit reverb. The Surfmate comes as a kit, so you have to assemble it yourself. It's not a beginner's project. I would say it's for the intermediate hobbyist who has already some experience in building tube circuits and who is aware of the dangers of high voltages and who has some experience working with high voltage circuits. Anyway, it's not hard to assemble, and I would say for somebody who's got the tools and who has some experience in also building head shells, in doing Tolex work and all that, it can be done in a weekend. First, I want to introduce the test setup. I have my guitar, I have an A/B switch for switching channels, and I have my modified Silverface Fender Bandmaster. It is very well suited for the job because due to the modification, it has two absolute identical input channels. I dialed them in that they sound really completely the same, and let's have a short demonstration of that. So whenever you hear the click sound, it's switching channels between A and B. You might wonder why both units are partly disassembled. It's because I wanted to give them totally equal preconditions for the test. Both have an identical set of tubes. They both have a JJ6V6 power tube and a set of JJ preamp tubes, also identical. I tried to find some identical reverb tanks. I didn't have two absolute identical tanks, so I took the two tanks that were closest together. One is a MOD tank and the other one is a TAD tank. Okay, now both units are hooked up and powered up, and we are ready for a first comparison. I start with the Fender unit. Switch over to the Surfmate. And now I switch over a few times. I will indicate which one is on by looking at it. Start with the Fender. There wasn't a big difference, as you might have noticed, but there is one big difference in settings. I have the mixer on both units at 4. Yeah. I have the tone on the Surfmate at 10. I have the tone on the Fender unit at 7. So the Fender unit tends to sound overall a bit brighter. And the main difference is the dwell setting. On the Fender unit I have the dwell at 4, and on the Surfmate I have the dwell at 10. Anybody who's familiar with the Fender unit and all its descendants knows that higher dwell settings are able to overdrive the tube set, resulting in an overdriven reverb. I can demonstrate that. So let's put the dwell to 7. And you might notice, depending on the pickups of your guitar, of course, that the reverb starts to overdrive. Already noticeable distortion in the reverb. And this can be increased to 10, which is something that sounds a little nasty. So, what's the difference? It's easy to explain. The Surfmate circuit uses two attenuating resistors in the signal path in the preamp section to avoid too high, too harsh signal levels, and therefore it is, with a normal single coil guitar, not as easy to overdrive the tubes by high dwell settings. I would say dwell on 10 on this circuit equals dwell on 4 on the classic circuits. For all those who want to overdrive their preamp tubes, who want this lo-fi, trashy reverb sounds, it is no problem during the assembly process simply to leave out one of the resistors or both of the resistors. It's resistor number 18 and resistor number 19. You can bridge them, you can replace them by a wire, anyway, it's according to your likes. The advantage of this attenuation is that we have the whole scale of the dwell potentiometer for setting the dwell settings, in comparison to the Fender unit, where we have clean reverb only between 1 and 4, and the rest is overdriven more or less. You might have noticed there is really no noticeable difference in sound between the two units, but when I look at the dials, there are some differences. I have the tone dial on the Surfmate 10, and I have the tone dial on the Fender unit at 7. So the Fender unit tends to sound a little brighter, and I'm gonna demo this. I start with the setting here at 10 and here at 7 with the Fender unit. Now the Surfmate. Now I'm gonna put the tone to 10 on the Fender. Again, starting with the Surfmate. Now the Fender. And here you might notice some sparkle, some more high end in the reverberated sound. Again, some direct A-B comparison starting with the Fender. So you might notice the Surfmate sounds a little darker. Back to identical settings, and now I'm gonna dial in some other ratios with the mixer. I start with both mixers at 2. That was the Fender, and now the Surfmate. And again the Fender. Maybe some heavy reverberated sounds. I put both to 7. Things get quite wet and circly now, starting with the Fender. The Surfmate. No big difference. I want to finish this short comparison by putting both units back in the initial state I started with. That is, putting this one back to the reverb pan that came with the unit, putting this one back to the reverb pan that I bought for it, which is the Acoutronics pan, and then we're gonna hear the difference. Okay, now both are rewired back to their initial state. The Fender unit with the original reverb pan in it, and the Surfmate with the Acoutronics reverb pan that I initially bought for it. sum this up, I would say the Tubetown Surfmate is a considerable alternative to the Fender 63 Reverb unit reissue. Of course, you have to assemble it yourself, but in terms of price, if you want to buy a used second-hand Fender Reverb, at the moment you have to pay around, I would say, 600 euros. The complete kit without the assembly comes for around 350 if you really buy everything. If you buy a head shell, if you buy Tolex, if you buy glue, if you buy a handle and all that stuff. The kit itself, so only the circuit board, the parts, costs 189 euros at Tubetown at the moment. And you need a pan, you need a chassis, you need the face plates, you need the knobs, and you would need a housing for it, and you would need some Tolex and some glue. So all in all, if I sum it up, this thing costs about 350 euros and a weekend of work. This unit costs on the second-hand market about, let's say, 600 euros. Of course, there are other alternatives on the market. For example, you can buy a TAD kit, which costs for the kit 470 euros. If you want to buy it with a chassis, it costs you 715 euros. So if you compare the complete market situation for an intermediate hobbyist in electronics who has some experience with tube circuits and high voltages, I would say the Tubetown Surfmate is a pretty cool and inexpensive way to replicate authentic Fender Reverb 63 sounds. Thank you very much.